And we are live. So, welcome back, everybody. My name is Thomas,
I'm Joe.
Got Alan here.
and we are
Happening, everyone.
three USF students
Go.
going through our senior capstone project. We're on Global Goal 8, which is uh, decent economy, decent work and economic growth. Sorry,
There it
Easy
that
is.
to
was
do
off
your
the
thing.
dome. We're focused on target 8.6, which is promoting youth and employment, education, and training. This segment today will be focused on education. So youth and education is very, very important. Joe had the honors to introduce someone for this topic. So Joe, if you will introduce that person for us and play the interview.
Of course. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to segment two. This is Melanie Boyd. She is a professor at Gulf Coast State College. And I had the pleasure, she is my aunt, and I had the pleasure of interviewing her um, in regards to our topic, our United Nations goal. So I will get right into it. Here is my interview with Melanie. Individuals are doing global issues project for my senior capstone class. Well, let me skip it ahead a little bit. Sorry, guys. Work and economic, the employment, education, and training of youth, and specifically like high schoolers and college folks. So secondary education. So I have about, I think, like 11 questions for you. Let me see.
Okay.
I got like 10 questions. So you just answer them however you believe is correct, and we'll get started, okay?
Okay.
All right. So the first question is, what are some of the challenges you face in preparing your students for the transition from secondary education to the adult workforce?
The greatest challenge I think is informing and getting students that are coming through high school to understand that college doesn't necessarily mean that you have to go on a 4-year degree track, that there's career and technical education options that are available to them that prepares them for specific jobs in the industry.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think most people have the impression that they have to go all 4 years in order to get a job, right?
Right.
Yeah. So, what are some of the tools you use to prepare your students to enter the workforce?
Well, being the chair of the Business and Technology Division at Gulf Coast State College, a lot of the programs, I have 12 academic programs that are specifically 2-year programs that prepare students to enter the workforce, um, giving them specific skill sets such as in networking, cybersecurity, accounting, or business, or digital media. It's various, and the programs are designed for that career and technical education that gives them the specific skill sets they need to go into what area they're interested in.
Huh. And it's 2-year program?
Yes,
Approximately if they
I
go
have
full time.
2-year programs, and I also have some programs, even some bachelor programs that are, bachelors of applied sciences that are geared towards specific industries such as digital media and technology management that are focused more on the specific skill sets rather than your traditional theory-based, maybe a Bachelor of Science or a Bachelor of Arts degree that would gear more towards those types. I'm, giving them hands-on application with, setting up a website or, programming a network, just those specific skill sets.
And those can be applied immediately in the workforce because they need people, almost. I know in my business alone, we have an entire division of people that do that very thing and create websites for benefits, medical, dental, and health and benefits. And I think that's excellent. Do you see a difference in the students' motivation from year to year? Are they more motivated or less motivated to achieve high standards? Do you think from year to year, like generation to generation?
Um, It's interesting that, more and more students, I have a lot of non-traditional students that maybe it's retired military that are coming back to develop skill sets to go on to a second career. Or I have, people who have been maybe stay-at-home moms with their kids, but now the kids have grown up and they've decided to go back to school to develop some skills to position themselves better into the workforce. So it's just a variety. So it's become more evident that we need to be more flexible with the programs that we offer to accommodate people that are working and going to school.
Here, here. Here, here. It's a very difficult task. It's personally, doing what I'm doing and going back at such a latter stage of my life, trying to get the scheduling and the courses to match my schedule, it has been a challenge, especially towards the end when I've taken most of the core classes and just need 2 more to graduate. It's been very, very difficult for me to get those 2. And it's just amazing how the curriculum is just not there. And then, to come this far, then it's just very disheartening. And I can see how that can be, a deterrent for some people to just kind of go, well, I'm just going to go right into the workforce. I'm done. I don't need my degree. I'm just going to go.
Yeah. Yeah, we in education need to do better at addressing those needs.
I agree. Let's see. What advice would you give a young person about to graduate high school that's looking to enter into secondary education?
The main thing is finding out, truly doing a self-assessment to see what you enjoy. You're going to spend a lot of years working at a job to earn a living. So you really want to try to identify what you're passionate about and that you really enjoy doing, because it's, while you have to make enough money to, provide food and housing, but you want to be able to enjoy along the way as well.
That's good advice. Do you think there's a negative stigma on those that go into a trade school out of high school as opposed to pursuing a degree on secondary level?
I absolutely do. And that's very unfortunate because, one of my programs I have is an engineering technology. When you talk about going into manufacturing and people think about working in a plant, it's not the old, dirty manufacturing place that you used to think about. It's more into the higher end electronics, automation processes, and those are really high technical skill areas.
Yeah.
But those things that we train for in a 2-year program, that somebody that's not interested in passing all the math and science and humanities, all those gen ed classes, you can get a 2-year degree in those technical areas with 15 credit hours of your gen ed. And, that's kind of the necessary part of getting the Associate of Science degree, but at least they're getting that hands-on skill set training along with it that hopefully can keep them interested enough and keep the end goal in mind to get them to persist through to graduation.
I agree, and that's a very good point. I was speaking to my one of my old best friends who owns a couple of companies. One of them being a plumbing company, and as you know, your husband owned a contracting company for a long time. I interviewed him, and he was talking about how about the average age of a plumber in the U.S. is in their 50s and 60s. Like, there's not a lot of young plumbers coming in and taking on that career, which is pretty sad because it's a very lucrative. I mean, he makes a very good living doing what he does, and doing that type of work, trade and labor kind of skills is certainly something to think about going out. But some people just think that hey, if I get a college degree, that I'm automatically going to make more money, and that's not necessarily true. There's kind of a stigma on that, and I can attest, you can make a lot of money doing trade craft.
That's absolutely the truth. The challenge is getting to students young enough and getting with guidance counselors and changing that mindset that you don't tell the maybe there's some people that aren't the world's best at writing these world lit papers or whatever, and so grow up telling, from middle school or even younger, saying, well, you're not going to be college material. Well, then you're creating that mindset.
Right.
And I think we've
You're
got to
limiting.
turn that around, that it's about identifying what you are interested in and pursuing that pathway. And there is no stigma, because in this world, in our economy, we've got to have people in the service industry. We've got to have
Absolutely.
those technicians.
Yep.
It's
That's
just
what
a
drives our
necessary
economy.
part.
It drives our economy. Those
It does.
people, that working class, and those small businesses and those small business owners that do those things literally drive the U.S. economy. And people don't realize that, and like I was saying before, I think it's kind of a negative stigma. Like, people are like, oh, you're in contracting. Oh, you're a plumber. Like, they kind of look down on it. Like, like, if, you're an executive lawyer at some law firm is a more, noble path. And I disagree completely, because guess what? When your toilet doesn't work, who are you calling? You know what I mean?
Exactly.
As my friend always says, the brown sharks never stop swimming.
Sorry, guys. We go a little off topic there.
That's right.
To go to college, what he loves, and which is hunting and fishing, while somebody runs his company and he just collects the check. But he had to work really hard as a good education.
One thing that I run into a lot is students coming to school and they'll, not sure what they want to do, and they're, taking a few classes, and sometimes they just want to drop out until they figure it out. Well, the advice I give them is to continue on with your degree, because if nothing else, you have more flexibility, you have more options.
Right.
Because a lot of times there's companies that want to hire somebody with a degree, and then they end up working in a totally different area than what they got their degree in.
Yeah.
But it's a statement, it just it's a door opener.
Yep.
That sometimes you may figure out what you don't want to do by a class that you take.
Yeah, process
Maybe it
elimination.
helps you to identify what you are passionate about.
That's a good point. Do you think of any negatives of going to college? Like secondary education, do you see a negative to it? I mean, obviously money, right? Maybe.
Yeah, no, I don't really see anything down, because I look at education as an investment in yourself.
I agree with that.
Whatever education you get, you're investing in you, and no one could ever take that away. And the best advice is to go in it with the mindset that you're always going to be, there's always something more you can learn. So just because your formal education at a school stops doesn't mean you don't stop investing in yourself by educating yourself through whatever means you find available.
I'd agree with that, and especially later in life with me, when I decided to go back to college, it was about going back and getting the degree. I mean, it certainly was. And that was something that was always in the back of my mind. I need to finish college. But for me, it was truly about bettering my mind, educating my mind, and enjoying that process. Because when I was younger, I didn't care. I wanted to party. I wanted to hang out with my friends. I wanted to make money. And as I got older, it was truly, and maybe I'm just a late bloomer, but in my mind, I was always about, making that money now. And as you said, investing in yourself and educating yourself is really the pursuit that you're doing when you're going to college. And I've learned so much about myself just from going through this process, and really building I guess a higher self-esteem of myself, a higher self-image, feeling better about the choices that I've made, because I feel like that goal is finally getting accomplished, and I'm getting to that point where it was a stigma over my head for so long, and I think going and finishing and just the process of learning, I mean, I feel smarter. You know what I mean? Like,
So I'm going to stop it there, guys, because I think it just kind of tails off after this. But I think there's several good points in that. The point I was trying to make, and forgive me because I had a really bad head cold. You could hear my snotting through the whole thing, so I'm sorry for that. But I think she made some excellent points. Personally, when I was talking to her, one of the things that really stood out to me was um, getting a 2-year degree versus a 4-year degree, and pushing people more towards that because of the needs of, say, cybersecurity and website building and technological engineering and things like that. I thought that was a big takeaway from that interview. I think that she told me that she really does stress that a lot because, first of all, it's less schooling, which means it's going to be less out of your pocket, right, in the long run, and you can really jump right into that industry and really start a very good career in a short amount of time. What do
I
you
agree.
guys think?
Yeah, no, I think it's great that she mentioned that because I feel like, especially growing up for me, there weren't people that were really advocating or educating or pushing the notion that, hey, college isn't necessarily strictly a 4-year place. It isn't a place that you have to. You signed a bid and you got to be there for 4 years, get a degree, and then get a job after that.
Yeah, I
I would.
agree.
There are more options from college. You know what I mean? Trade school or this or that. You can go to college just in a different way that works best for you. And it's the more people that know that, the better. It leaves people opportunity.
When I started back, I started during the pandemic in my mid 40s, and I just decided, hey, they're offering a lot more online classes, so let me go and do it. And one of the things, my wife, who has a bachelor's degree from the University of South Florida in political science, she stressed to me an AS. She's like, you should just get an AS. Don't get a 4-year degree. I wanted a 4-year degree. That was my thing. But looking back, that could have been a viable option, and it would have cost me a lot less money. I don't regret my choice, but I think that is something that we need to stress to our youth, right, guys? Like, I think that people need to understand that secondary education is not necessarily 4 years. It can be 2. It can be 18 months. It can be getting your ultrasound license, right? It can be a dental hygienist, whatever. It's secondary education, and it's a way to better yourself and better your position in life.
Yeah, no, furthermore on that topic there where, college doesn't necessarily have to be 4 years, it can be 2 years because the route that jobs and recruiters and talent acquisition people are like looking for, they're looking for like a degree, but they also want you to have like certain certifications and XYZ, you name it. So it's like I personally I feel like a 2-year degree plus those certifications might look more attractive to some people than just a 4-year degree. Boom, case in point, and you don't have any of those extra certifications that are kind of required for that position.
I think one of the things that she really said that stuck out to me too is is the training involved, right? They're going to train you while you're in school to do this job.
Right.
So part of that AS or 2-year degree is that you're getting training and that is directly related to the job that you're going to get when you get out. So it's not like you're taking a general education course like college algebra and never use it ever in your
Right.
life. You're taking these classes that are teaching you how to build a website or teaching you how to do whatever, and you're going to immediately apply it to a craft when you get out, to a job that pays you. And that's, I think, was an important takeaway for me.
I,
I like the point. Go ahead, go
but,
ahead, go ahead.
but
Okay. Yeah, I like the point she was talking about for people that are kind of discouraged and they feel like they want to drop out. That just continue with your degree, even if you don't know
Yeah.
exactly what you want to do. I'm sitting here about to graduate, and I'm like, for the vast majority of my years, I'm thinking, man, I hope I'm gonna be able to use this. I hope I'm gonna land in an industry that's using this. But I'm kind of taking the approach now where like even if I don't, it's still a degree because the whole point of a degree
Yeah.
is like, okay, you came to this institution, you showed up for X amount of years, and that's still something to write home about. It's still
For
something that's
sure.
on your record, that's still something that you can pridefully say and say, hey, like I showed up, I did this, like I accomplished this. So that's another big thing is just, you got something, like you
I
have it.
agree. And being in the and being in the industry and being a hiring manager for as long as I have, I think that the degree is an endurance contest, right?
Right.
Employers look at that and go, okay, you stuck with something for 4 years and you did it, right? And that's one of the big things that a college degree says to an employer is that you could do something for 4 years and see it through. And I know you can because you went to college, you got a degree. And I think I know when I hire people for specific roles that require college degrees, that I'm when I see that you're seeing a list of candidates that have all BA, whatever. You see them all having these degrees. So what's going to separate you from the person next to you that has the same degree you have? It's going to be it could be job experience, but it's also how do you interview, how passionate you are about things, right? I mean, there's a bunch of different factors, but getting the degree, and she said it, they'll never take that away from you. You can't take that piece of paper away,
Exactly.
and you can't take the experiences too. And I think that no matter what, I learned something even at 50. I've learned a lot by going back to school than I ever learned when I was 18 and going to school. Because I was one of the, and we kind of got a little sidetracked there with my interview because she's my aunt. But one of the things I was saying before was that, when I was 18 and I went to college, I was more worried about playing football. I wasn't worried about getting a degree. And as I'm in college, one of the reasons why I didn't complete college is because I had no idea what I wanted to do. And I had no focus on what degree I wanted to get and what I wanted to do with my life. So I think getting a 2-year degree could focus you on some specific career paths that you may not thought it you were interested in, and it can be a quick way to get a degree and get working and get into something that you may enjoy and find it quicker. And I think it's a viable option versus when I went to school back in the 90s, it was like, okay, you got your degree, then you move forward. Like there wasn't an internet, there wasn't cyber technology and all these jobs that were created because of it. Like literally you got like a business degree and then you went and worked for a big firm and you sat there with white collar stuff. So there's a lot more options for our youth out there now. I think that's what I'm trying to say. And there's a lot more viable options for a quick turnaround where you don't have to spend a whole lot more money on a degree, on a 4-year degree, and be able to jump right into the workforce.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, I mean, perspective is everything, right? So I like the point where she was, using education as like, change your perspective on it. Like education is meant to invest in yourself. You're constantly learning new things. You're learning new skills. As we're growing and learning new things, I mean, we're going to be learning things till the day we pass. So it's like, why wouldn't you want to know how to do more things? It's going to just set you up for future success. And, if you want to grow in your career and, make a sustainable um, amount of earning to support your livelihood, you're gonna have to learn new things. So this is just kind of one approach of doing that through education. Improving yourself, improving your knowledge, improving your skills. Just kind of the overall encompassing theme of this entire project is focused on how do I develop more sustainable traits and skills
Right.
future down the line in my career.
Right.
How do I do things to live sustainably and successfully? So
And I think
And I,
information. I mean, I think that's the whole point of this whole project. Like you said, between these interviews and our research, I think that the more you know, the more you're capable of doing. Right. So, like going into it, our previous notions when we were younger, looking at college as like a singular black and white cookie cutter thing. You go for 4 years, you find a work degree that works for you. But now we're
come on,
learning
get a job.
life that like college isn't just about an education, it's about learning yourself, which one of you guys mentioned in the interview. It's like, college is actually, you learn yourself while you're there. On top of just getting a degree, you invest in yourself and these other benefits that come from just attaining or even just pursuing that secondary education that are intangible that you don't really see going into it.
I love that. Yeah, absolutely. I think for me, there was always this stigma kind of held over my head, and maybe it was on my own creation of just being a high school graduate and not finishing my degree. And as I got older, and I lost jobs and went to other jobs, it was always that, man. I just have a high school diploma. Like I'm just going to be at this level forever, and I felt like. Um, Going she kind of put it very lovely. She was like, educate there's just a big reward for educating yourself, and it doesn't matter even if you don't use it and you go to a different, like you get an engineering degree but you go to you go get a chef job or whatever. It's the fact that you're rewarding yourself with an education and the experiences. And I think part of this project is hopefully is showing some younger people who look at this and say, these are some things that I haven't thought about. And these are things that maybe I need to think about. Maybe that's a direction that we can point our youth to say, hey, I didn't think about that, and that's a good thing to start thinking about now. And maybe I'm not sure about what I want to do when I grow up, but these are all viable options, and I'm a little bit more sure that I'm going to go one way or another based on listening to these podcasts. And I think that's kind of our overall goal in that, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I like the way you put that, like rewarding yourself with that degree. Because another thing she mentioned was like, you want to have like a self-assessment, like some reflection on what you like and what you're passionate about. Because like you said, like even if you got a degree in one thing and you found out you didn't necessarily want to do that, it's not the end, like the sky isn't falling. Like
Right.
I know, for example, my grandfather, he got his degree in finance, he became an accountant, and he hated his life. Like he was miserable. And it's like I don't want to, like, even if you got that degree, it's like if you know that you're setting yourself up for a life of just you hate your
Just
job,
crunching numbers.
you don't want
Yeah.
to wake up. Right.
Yeah.
It's just like you don't want to wake up. It's like sure you spent the time to get that degree, but that's still a degree. And
Yeah.
it's like you don't have to dedicate the rest of your life to doing a
Right.
job that you can't stand doing.
Right.
Yeah.
So
I
be
had a friend of
liking
mine
the
who got a
job.
banking job, a banking degree, went into banking, and was literally in it for 5 years, and then quit and opened a bait shop and made
Wow.
millions doing a bait shop. And it's like you get it, but you have that degree, and you always have it, so you can always go back to banking to make money if you need to. But he went and did what he was passionate about. So who knows where life's going to take you? To your point, Thomas, who knows
Yeah.
where life's going to take you? But at the end of the day, they're never going to they're going to drag that degree from my cold dead hand
Yeah.
at the end of the day, because I know I've earned it. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? I know you
Yeah.
guys feel the same way, and it's like but it the the to me, it's about and I was kind of saying this in the interview, the the internal feeling of accomplishment, of getting through and finally doing it. And for me, guys, maybe it's a little bit more heavy because I am older, but it doesn't take away from the same experiences. You guys have gone through it just as hard as I have. But for me, the weight and thinking I may not ever do it, and then finally going back and now I can see the light at the end of the tunnel, it's very rewarding. And I want to kind of share that because I think there might be some people out there that don't necessarily know what they want to do, and they're getting out of high school and they're like, God, what am I going to do? That's why I think that we're all passionate about these podcasts, because I really think that if it just affects one person who listens to this and says, I'm, maybe I'm going to go plumb, maybe I'm going to go get a 2-year degree because I think that I didn't realize it was an option for me, and by listening to this, it is. And I know that I can go and create websites and have a 2-year degree, have an AS and do it. And I think it's really important.
For sure. And I think too that like these education avenues are flexible. We think that these things are fixed, and once we get a specific degree that we have to stick to that. But I think as Ms. Boyd said during the interview, which was short but I think brilliant, just that a degree is a door opener, right? It doesn't necessarily mean that you're stuck and you're shackled to this idea, this concept of finance or this concept of whatever it might be. Just saying you have that, you can really open so many doors that you don't even realize.
Most
And
stuff.
once the youth kind of understands that, again, now there are more options than ever before. Like you said, flexible programs that are 2 years that have a focus and certain things that college isn't just linear that we thought it used to be,
Yeah.
And the
More
more
done.
people,
Yeah.
you could just
Yeah.
exercise your opportunity.
Yeah. I agree.
Yeah, absolutely. I thoroughly enjoyed that interview. Got a lot of notes off that, a lot of takeaways, and just kind of
That's good.
also in the moment changed my perspective on it too. Because sometimes I'm sitting here thinking at school like, man, like not even gonna use this thing. I'm not even gonna use this degree. But then again, I gotta think, okay, I did my work. I'm doing, I did my dues, and people are gonna look at that and say like, okay, this person actually took the time to do it, even if it's not going into say I'm not using my degree for exactly what I thought I was going to use it
Excuse
for.
me.
It's still something, like you said. It's like it's an open door. It's just
Yeah.
it's an extra plus to your name, and it's
Yeah.
like not that
It
you need
definitely
it, but it
opens.
definitely benefits you. It certainly
Yeah, and
benefits
it
you.
definitely opens more doors especially when you start to get more experience in the workforce. I think it's definitely going to, open more doors for
Yeah,
sure.
absolutely.
Because it just adds on to the experience that you might have
Yeah.
gained in the jobs that you tried. It's like, well, like I have 6 months here, a year here, but I also have a college degree to fall back on. That, like you guys said, you can't take that away from me, no matter what.
Yeah.
But it's like I die with this, and they got it.
Exactly.
You know? You went through that turmoil, that work, that pain, and it paid off. You know, because you had that at the end of the day. So
Absolutely.
it's definitely worth it.
All right, guys. Well, thank you for joining us today and listening to us. I hope you guys got informed and learned some things through our reaction and the interview with Melanie. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day. And yeah, if you guys have any other comments before we wrap this up, just feel free to share.
Oh, I think that was it was an interesting interview. I think Melanie gave us some good perspective on secondary education and some a different viewpoint. And I'm looking forward to some of our other podcasts because we have some interesting tidbits. So stay tuned, guys. We got some more for you.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. All right. Well, thank you guys, and we will see you in the next one. Deuces.